Hey everybody, we are going to talk about the Social Security cost of living adjustment today, where it stands now, when we'll know the finalized answer, and what it will mean to you. Before we dive in, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/Frankel. Get a message from my sponsor, The Motley Fool. It's the best way to support this work I'm doing on YouTube. And please be sure to click my follow on my channel if you don't already, subscribe, and keep up with all of my latest Social Security content and much more. So let's dive right in. I want to share my screen for a second. All right, so here's the short version. The current projected Social Security cost of living adjustment that you'll see reflected in 2025 is 2.57%, and that is based on both recent inflation data and current and future expectations, as we'll get to in a minute. This is down, that should say down, sorry for the typo, but this is down from the prior expectation of 2.63%, which doesn't matter that much, as we'll see on the next slide. And the actual cost of living adjustment is based on third quarter inflation, and we'll unpack that in just a minute as well. So here's why I say it doesn't matter that it went down from 2.63 to 2.57%, because as you can see here, these are the Social Security cost of living adjustments for a whole bunch of recent years, including last year's, which was 3.2, the one before that, which was 8.7, and so on. All of those are to one decimal point, and both the old estimate, the 2.63, and the recent one, the 2.57, they both round to a 2.6% jump in your Social Security benefit. So as long as it stays within 0.5 or 0.05 of that 2.6% range, that's what it should be. So let's get into a little bit of what this will mean to you. So as of August 2024, the average retired worker gets $1,920.48 from Social Security. This is straight from the Social Security Administration. The average survivor's benefit, that could be either someone whose spouse passed away or someone whose parent passed away, is a little over $1,500 a month. And the average spousal benefit, that is a benefit that you draw on your spouse's work record, while they're still alive, is a little under $910. So you can see on the chart, with a 2.6% cost of living adjustment, assuming the current estimate stands, the average retired worker's Social Security benefit will increase by about $50 in 2025. Now, technically, this is the 2024 Social Security cost of living adjustment that goes into effect in December, but since Social Security is paid 1 month in arrears, you'll actually see this in the direct deposit you receive in January 2025. So that's why I refer to this as the January 2025 cost of living adjustment. So when will we know for sure? So the actual cost of living adjustment will be based on third quarter inflation numbers. That's each month, not just the overall third quarter. So July, August, and September. They compare those months to the corresponding months in 2023, and that's how they will determine this year's cost of living adjustment. So we already know July's actual inflation data. That's been released. That was released in mid-August, and that pointed to a 2.9% increase in the CPI. Now, if they're only expecting about a 2.6% cost of living adjustment, that tells me that they expect inflation to soften a little bit in August and September. Obviously, August is already over, but we haven't seen the data yet. So we know July's actual inflation data. We do not know the actual CPI data for either August or September as of this recording, which I'm recording this on September 9th. I'm not sure exactly when you're going to see it. If you see it right when I publish it, the August numbers might not be out yet, but if you see it a little bit later, they might be. So here's kind of the important dates you need to know. August CPI data, that's Consumer Price Index, that's the measure of inflation that this is based on, is scheduled to be released on September 11th, which is a Thursday, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The September data, which is kind of the final piece of the puzzle, is expected to be reported at that same time, 8:30 in the morning, on October 10th. So once we have all three numbers, the July data, the August data, and the September data, the Social Security Administration is likely to announce the official Social Security cost of living adjustment very soon afterwards. Now, I mean, it's not going to be maybe the same minute, but we can do some math and pretty much figure it out as soon as the data comes out on October 10th. So stay tuned for another video. I'm going to try to do it very timely and put it up very quickly. So last thing, let's look at some of the information that we know about what the cost of living adjustments could be beyond 2025. So the 1-year expectation of inflation is about 3%. So it's actually possible we can get a higher cost of living adjustment for the following year that will go into effect in 2026. The average inflation rate for the next 3 years, this is from a Federal Reserve survey, is expected to be 2.3%, so lower inflation expectations over the next 3 years. But then the 5-year expectation is kind of interesting at 2.8%. So essentially what these three numbers mean is that inflation is expected to be about 3% for the next year, then go down for the next 2 years or so, but then start to rise back up after that. But very tame. The Federal Reserve's target is 2% inflation. So between 2 and 3% over the next 5 years would be pretty stable. We want to avoid the inflation that we saw in 2022. It was kind of nice for Social Security beneficiaries in a way to get an 8.7% cost of living adjustment go into effect in 2023. But we don't want that every year. That means prices are going up for everybody. We want price stability, and stability is generally defined by about 2% inflation. And one other thing that all Social Security beneficiaries should know is that, yes, you get inflation adjustments every year, but it could be the wrong kind of inflation. Under current law, the CPIW, which is the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners, is used to determine the annual cost of living adjustment. A better metric would probably be the CPIE, which for obvious reasons is called the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. That places more emphasis on expenses that affect seniors, such as healthcare and housing. The average senior spends more of their income on healthcare as a percentage than the overall population, and that one's pretty obvious. But on housing, seniors that either don't own their homes or have a mortgage, they tend to spend more money, not just as a dollar amount, but as a percentage of their income compared to the rest of the population. So things like rent increases tend to affect seniors more than the overall population. And here's just the statistics on that, and then I'll wrap this up. So over the past 2 decades, the CPIE would have resulted in higher cost of living adjustments for Social Security beneficiaries if that was used. From the period from 1982 to 2011, for example, the CPIE grew at an annualized rate of 3.1% versus 2.9% for the CPIW. In 2024, the cost of living adjustment that went into effect in 2024, that is, the CPIE would have given a 4% cost of living adjustment versus the 3.2% that seniors actually got. And the CPIE would have resulted in higher cost of living adjustments in 7 out of the past 10 years. So there's a solid argument to be made that the wrong kind of CPI inflation data is being used. Hopefully Congress will address that at some point. But it's important for seniors to be aware of that don't necessarily throw a party when you get a cost of living adjustment, because it might not help exactly keep up with inflation. It's definitely good. It's protected against inflation, but maybe not 100%. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Please leave me some comments. I will do my best to respond to anything you ask individually. And thanks for listening. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investment. So I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from the popular product Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by nearly 5 times. So go to fool.com/Frankel to get your 10 stock picks now. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor returns are 767% as of July 5th, 2024, and are measured against the S&P 500 returns of 163% as of July 5th, 2024.